Let's see what we got this week. Oh, I'm a little dark on the bottom. Hey, that's all right. How it is. How it is. A little dark on the bottom, but as long as I look good up for close, that's what matters, right, folks? All right. We are live. Let's see. Always checking the hair when we go live. That's a thing I do. So, hey there, everybody. Welcome to Coffee Breaks Thursdays with Jason Zlatkus. I, of course, am your host, Jason Zlatkus. Waiting for the fans to get on. I love this part of the show, but we are live from Los Angeles today. And before I bring my guest on in a few moments, you know how we do on the show, but I wanted to tell you our guest today is the incredible Jackie Dallas, and I'm really excited to get to talk to her. Her and I have been in a bunch of stuff together, or not even a bunch of stuff together, but some projects together, and we've never met. So it's actually really cool, and I'm excited to talk to her about that. I'm still flying high off last week's episode. Last week's episode we had Daniel Roebuck on the show, and it was like a dream come true for me as an actor. Getting to interview somebody like Daniel Roebuck, who to me is, he's my idol. I mean, the guy works, and I think that's the best part of it is that he's a working class actor, and that's one of the things that I love about Jackie Dallas is she's also a working class actor. To me, she's what I think every actor is trying to do. So we'll get to that point. We'll talk to her in just a few minutes, but. Before we do that, I'm still, you guys know how we're doing this here. Still adjusting, still deciding whether or not I like the lighting, still deciding whether or not my hair looks good. You know how we do. But let's move on to some things. The first thing I do is we're going to have some coffee. Welcome to Coffee Breaks Thursdays with Jason Zlatkus. Let's have some coffee. All right. And I'm always curious when I watch the tape back, I hear myself swallow on the videos, and so that's pretty funny that I do that now. But you guys know I'm drinking coffee on the show. Anyway, the one thing this week that happened to me, and I talked to you guys a lot about what's going on with me during my week, and man, I really just don't like the lighting. So I talked to you a little bit about what's going on with my week, and what is going on this week is, man, auditions. I'm very, very lucky to be doing a lot of in-person auditions. Well, not just in person, but I did an in-person one yesterday. And but I'm doing a lot of auditions. And you guys know I did one. You saw the commercial I just recently did for Go Pure Pod, and that's a pretty good item. You guys, a lot of you guys asked me if it really works, and a lot of you guys asked me if it's something that you should buy and all this stuff. And I. What is happening there? I'm reading the comments, sorry. And I would do that on the show. But anyway, the Go Pure Pot, it really does work, and it really does purify the water, and I actually really do use it in my coffee pot. It's that is something that I actually did on a commercial. Because you guys know, I don't know, maybe you don't know, but I'm given a script when I do a commercial. I don't typically ad-lib on the commercial. I'm typically given a script. So, when I go like, oh, this is the greatest thing in the world, and this is, such a great product, I don't often believe that. But the truth is on the Go Pure Pod, I actually do. That's actually a really good product. So that's a commercial I did this week. But back to auditionings. I did one yesterday, and I have to tell you guys about this. I did one yesterday, and it was for Columbus Meats, and maybe you've heard of them. They make salami, and they make like charcuterie boards and all this stuff, and it's a pretty big brand. They're in just about every grocery store that you've ever seen. And so I was really excited to go in there, and I go in there and I do this in-person audition, and all I have to do is eat meat and cheese on camera, and not be an idiot. But in classic style, I walked in and all of my training went out the window, like all of it. And I'm eating this cracker and this meat and this thing, and it's falling out of my mouth, and it's all over the floor, and I'm like trying to hold it together, and there is nothing I can do. And I'm just like, oh my God, I can't believe I drove all the way down here and then an hour and a half home in traffic to eat this cracker. And I was like, I even told the lady, I go, man, you know what? The truth is, I just actually really like this product. And the lady says, the lady goes, hey, do you want some more? Like, and I was like, dude, no, like I can't, like, and they were like giving me, and I was like, well, at least I got a snack out of the deal, because I'm sure I blew the audition. I mean, all I had to do was eat meat, eat some things on TV and not make it look poor, and I did. So anyway, that happens, and that's what it's like in live auditions for me sometimes. And you guys know that you guys talk to me a lot about live auditions, and I can't wait to do that. And that's what happened to me yesterday at a live audition, was crumbs all over the floor. So the funny thing is they have me coming back today to I got to go right after this. Right after the show, I'm headed to another audition, and in fact, it's an audition for Lowe's. And Lowe's, my agent called me yesterday and they said, we have an audition for Lowe's. And I said, no, I'm not doing it. I have a show tomorrow. And my agent freaked. Like, my agent was like, you going? And I was like, yeah, but I can't do it. It was like 10:50. They were like, they go, you're gonna go on and you got to be there at 10:50. And I'm like, no, I have a show at 11. Like, I'm not doing I'm not going to be at an audition at 10:50 and in person. And they said, so so I told Lowe's no. And like I said, my agent was pissed. So they moved my audition to 2:00. So thank goodness. So right after this, I'm taking off to Santa Monica to do an in-person live audition for Lowe's, which is pretty cool. And it's a whole football thing. So maybe it's a Super Bowl. I don't really know, but hopefully. So obviously my crumbs on the floor didn't bother them too much. They asked me to come back. Anyway, this is the part of the show where we talk about handsome history, and I have some good ones today. Here we go. It's good coffee, and I don't even know what it is. Some crap. It's probably Starbucks something. But anyway, here we go with handsome history. I have to tell you this. 40 years ago today, Ozzy. Hello, are we still live? What just happened? This thing, I don't even know. Maybe the fans are here, maybe they're not. Let's take a look. Usually I see more viewers. We're waiting for the producer to come on. Anyway, we're going to get to our guest in just a moment, folks. Again, Jackie Dallas coming up. She was on Stranger Things and stars in a bunch of movies. We're going to talk about that. But before we do, handsome history. 40 years ago today, Ozzy Osbourne bit the head off a bat on stage. It would happen today. It was 1982, January 20th, 1982. Ozzy Osbourne bites the head off a bat. And to me, that is one of the coolest things I've ever heard. Because when I was a kid, we didn't have the internet. We couldn't Google stuff, and we couldn't figure out if it was true or not. So we didn't know if he actually had bitten the head off a bat or if he didn't. We had no idea. And we just, and then I heard all these things about how he'd filed his teeth down and, all these rumors flying around about Ozzy Osbourne. Come to find out, the bat thing years later is true. And now you're watching it here, and I'm reminding you on the internet that Ozzy Osbourne did actually indeed bite the head off a bat. And so cheers to him for that, 40 years ago today. The second fun fact today, and I really like it, is in Missouri, the Highway Patrol, before I bring on my guest here in just a couple of moments, and we have a lot to talk about, but the Highway Patrol in Missouri, the audience attendance is taking me off today. Don't say that, Jason, on TV. It's like when we first started the show. Where are you guys today? Must be a busy Thursday for everybody. Maybe you guys are at auditions. I don't know what you're doing. But either way, I can't see the number. Especially for the caliber of guests we have on today. But let me tell you. So back to handsome history. Don't derail the show, idiot. Missouri Highway Patrol put out an APB for a Gotham license plates car that was purple and green. That's right. The Missouri Highway Patrol actually put out an all points bulletin for the Joker. And the reason that they did was it was actually an accident. They didn't mean to. They were doing it as a test text. But instead, they sent this mass text to everybody in Missouri that the Joker was on the loose and that they needed to catch him. And that happened just a couple of days ago, actually. So, I don't know if it counts as history, but it was a couple of days ago. So we're counting it as handsome history. And there you go, guys. That was handsome history this week. I hope you enjoyed those crazy fun facts that I thought were really interesting. And especially the Joker. So we're going to get to our guest now. We're gonna bring Jackie Dallas on, and we're going to talk acting. We're going to talk a lot of stuff. So here we go. Let's see if we can get this to happen. And we're going to invite her to be on camera. So we're sitting at. The producer didn't not tell me he was not going to be here this week. So we're going to see how that goes.
Hey.
Hi there.
Cool.
So
can you hear me?
I can hear you. Welcome to the show. Welcome to Coffee Breaks Thursdays.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm really glad you're on. You know, you're the first guest that maybe did not have trouble getting on ever, like ever.
Ooh. Warren sent me very, very specific direction.
Good. I told him, I said, listen, you have to phrase it like this, like, you know, and there goes my coffee. My hand just caught
Oh,
on my coffee. It's totally okay.
oh,
That's all right.
are you like pulled all over?
No,
You
no,
have third
no,
degree burn?
no. I'm totally okay. It just
I
totally
wanted to
splashed right there.
I wanted to comment. I liked your mug, the Ouija board.
Thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a classic we use on the show. You know, it became the classic. What I used to do was change the mug every week. Like,
Mhm.
you know, this week we're doing this mug, and this week we're doing this mug. But I ran out of cool mugs, so which is a true story because you know, being an actor is expensive. You have to buy your own stuff. Nobody's supplying me with cool coffee mugs each week, right? So I have to buy my own.
There's truth in that. There's truth in that.
So let's talk about being that an actor is expensive. It would actually leads me into my first question. Uh,
Hmm.
you're a doctor,
Yes, in a past life.
right? So and so you go to New York for surgery, like to study surgery, not to have it, but to be a,
Right, right.
and then you go to Chicago for pathology,
Hmm.
and then you go, I'm going to move to California and be an actor. So my question is why do you hate money?
Dude, let me tell you, taking that step was a massive bite of humble pie there. I was going back to bartending, dog sitting. I drove for Uber for a while. Yeah, it was an interesting step back. It was an interesting
Okay,
step.
so you decided rather than go with like, you know, what I guess would be a steady paycheck. I've never been a doctor. I've never been highly educated like you are, but um, you know what I mean? I've never had an opportunity at that kind of, you know, big time
Mhm.
money, I guess I would say, or even just that profession. I think for how hard it takes to get that far, for you to step away.
It was 12, it was about 12 years if I count my pre-med years. Yeah. I did pre-med and then medical school. I did 4 years of residency and clinical training. So it was a bit. But you know what? At the end of the day, it's like you have to figure out what calls you, you
Right.
know? And for me, it was a job. You know, I mean, at that point, people would call it a career, but just because you invest all this time, money, and effort doesn't mean that you're going to wake up every day loving what you do, you know? And for me, I recognized that happiness was something that I wanted to pursue a little bit more. Um, Medicine's a great field if you're cut out for it. You know, it takes a lot of time, effort, stress, a lot of selflessness. I mean, it's a 24/7 job, and I just craved a little more flexibility. So I was a little selfish, a little selfish.
Right. I mean, I totally feel that. For me, I had a toy store and, you know, was doing this whole toy business and this whole big thing and, you know, had money and wasn't happy. And, you know,
Hmm.
so for me, I found that happiness on set. Like, so what is your moment where you found that happiness on set? Like, I can trace mine back.
It's like that moment that just clicks in your brain, right?
Right, where you're like, I don't care what this pays. I'm doing this for the rest of my life.
Yeah, yeah. My first moments were pretty miserable, but I'll tell you, um, well, just to preface, like when I was younger, I always wanted to be an actress. And I don't know if anyone following has like heard this story before, but I'll just briefly touch upon it. When I was young, I grew up in Florida. There's no real TV opportunities, you know, in this small podunk town where I grew up in. And so it was just drama club at school, a local community theater. I went to like theater camp as a kid. It was one of those. And when I got older in high school, I started, you know, weighing my options of what I wanted to be when I grew up. And acting just wasn't a viable career. Well, not viable, it wasn't a realistic career.
Sure.
You know, Hollywood was like this land of the rich and the famous, and it was just so far removed from like how I had been raised. So medicine it was. And when I had transferred from, I did a lot of my clinical training in Miami, went to New York, did clinical training there, surgery there, moved to Chicago, did pathology there. After bouncing around a few times, I was kind of like, man, I need to do something creative with my life. So in Chicago, I dabbled back into acting, and this is where this moment came. Um, I I don't even know how I stumbled across these things. I found extras casting for Chicago Fire. And I was like, I'll just throw my hat in the, like whatever. And so I get confirmation back. It was this cattle call, which if any of y'all are familiar with, it was like 200 people, right? It was an overnight shoot outdoors in Chicago in February. Imagine how cold and miserable that must be for hundreds of people, right? So naturally, that's why they put it out publicly, because they just needed people. They needed bodies who were willing to do this. And all the experienced actors there, I'm sure, were like, no, pass. So I got the email saying, hey, we'd like to book you for this Saturday night. And I was like, hey, it's the weekend. I don't have to work. Let's just do it, right? Who needs sleep? I'm used to no sleep. Um, I thought it was going to be my big break because I knew nothing about the industry on a professional level,
I wonder
right?
how many people think that, right? When they go in as an extra
I had
part,
no
I'm
idea.
going to get
Yeah,
noticed, right? I'm going to get noticed,
totally.
right?
And they gave me so the scene was it's a school. I guess it's like a boarding school of some sort with kids, little kids, and the building catches on fire, Chicago Fire.
Sure.
So they gave me, the role of teacher. So in my head, I'm thinking like, oh my God, I'm going to be a teacher. Like I'm going to be a teacher on the show. That's like a specific role. Like I'm going to be teaching like on camera. This is, oh my God, I was like so excited for it. Show up. It's like 20 degrees. There's snow and ice everywhere. The scene, because we're running out of a burning building, we're not allowed to wear jackets or coats, right? We're having it on between cuts, but like we're stashing it so that while the filming is happening, we're like just wearing pajama-y kind of clothes. And there's so many kids because it's an orphanage or a boarding school, or I don't even remember what it was. Um, and they're so grumpy after the first hour.
Oh, sure.
Because it's the middle of the night, it's 20 degrees, everyone's hungry, everyone's cold, everyone's miserable, they miss their moms. Um, Long story short, it was an extremely miserable, physically miserable experience. But I walked by the camera like 3 times, like, I don't know, 20 feet away or something. And I got so giddy and excited by that moment. And I was like, I could do this. Maybe not like at night in Chicago in the winter, but like I would love to do more of this. And I don't know, that's where it clicked in my head. Like, let's just keep going. Let's just keep riding this, like exploring this film world and diving into that rabbit hole and seeing what happens.
Right. So when you that moment, was it influenced by look at the people who are like the stars, or just I just love being there with the camera? Like
I
I
just love being there, like seeing the stars. It's inspirational, right? You're like, wow, that is so cool. I'd love to be there, one day. Um,
right. That's what I'm asking.
I'll, yeah, I mean, that's cool. That's really, really cool. Of course, I feel like there's a little part of every actor that wants to be famous,
Sure.
right? Even
Right.
if you're not necessarily chasing fame, it's kind of like this, that'd be kind of cool. Um,
Right.
but it was more so that I just felt like I was in my element. I felt like working on a set was fun and exciting, and meeting other people was like, I don't know, I actually got to interact and talk creative projects, and they told me about, oh, it's not just extra work, obviously. Like if you want to build your resume and stuff, there's short films, there's film schools in Chicago, there's opportunities here, you can find casting. And the more I just listened to them in holding, it's hurry up and wait. There's a lot of downtime.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, there's actual paths that you can follow. There's actual things that you can do, and as a hobby, I was like, this is fun. Let's work during the week and have fun on the weekends and find that balance of life. Um, but ultimately, it was just the energy, just the feeling of my heart saying, now this I can get into.
Right. You know, okay, so it's funny that you mentioned the freezing temperatures, and that leads me into the next thing I want to talk about. One of the worst
Hmm.
experiences I ever had was on the set of Casa Grande. And you're right. I knew you were in that. Okay, so I didn't know you were in that. I'm in that. And
Yeah.
yeah, and okay, so they yeah, shout out to that. So so they say they call me up and they say it was Lori Laub back then. She's not around
Hmm.
anymore, but she calls me up and she said she was awesome. And yeah, and she says you I first of all, I auditioned for Miller Riverland, one of the main guys. And I didn't
Hmm.
know until I was stalking you that Casa Grande has an IMDb page. So
Yeah.
I went and looked at who they cast as Miller Riverland. It was James Marsters. Like, and I was like, dude, I auditioned for a role that James Marsters got. Like, well, no wonder, but man, I was up for that part. I couldn't believe it,
It makes
right?
me feel a little less bad,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, right. And then I went, oh, okay, well, sure. If I lost to him, of course, right? But so on this suit, so they say, all right, listen, you didn't get that, but we got you a featured extra role. How about you come out? And I go, featured? All right, I'll do featured. And so I go out there, and it's the coldest I've ever been. And the show takes place in the summer, as you know. So
Yeah.
we shot that in what, January, I think, right? Were we shooting that in or December? I don't know. And we were up in the hills of Petaluma, and they go, all right, you have your jackets on. And then they go, but we got to do the lighting. You can't have your jackets on. We're setting lighting. So
Oh my God.
we're like shivering. And then they go, action. You have to play like you're not freezing. You know, you can't be a frozen cop. You have to. so so
Oh
so
my
on
God.
that set, you on the Casa Grande shoot. What are you, a doctor on that?
Yeah, I play a doctor on that. It's funny you mentioned that you auditioned for a different role because I also auditioned for a different role. And mine was like a whirlwind last minute thing. I don't know if you like I don't even know. Apparently, whoever had been booked in the doctor role had been unable to fill that role and work it. So Lori calls me 36 hours before the shoot or something like that and was like, hey, I know you auditioned for this, but they will want you for this role. Are you able to work? I was like, yeah, sure. When is it? Day after tomorrow.
Right.
And I was like, what? And I'm living in LA at the time. Um,
Oh, you were
so
already in
I was
LA.
like,
I was still in the Bay when that was shooting. So you were already down here.
I was already down here. Yeah, because I think she even knew that. And she was like, I just wanted to reach out to you directly before, since time is of the essence. I'll go through your agency for all the paperwork and stuff like that. But since we had known each other, Bay Area is a small community.
Right.
She was just like, I want to know if you're even available. And I was like, okay, I can make it happen. So I drove up. Um, but where was I going with it? Yes, I was cast as a doctor, and I think I'm very grateful that I was able to get my foot in the door in this filming industry using my medical background, because I think my first 3 or 4 roles were as nurses. Um, and Lori had actually cast me as a nurse before as well in in another movie. I think it was The Wrestler. I think it was The Wrestler, if I'm not mistaken. It also filmed in Petaluma, and it was an army movie, and I played one of the army medics. Um,
Right.
so yeah, I don't know. It kind of worked
So
out,
do you have a
and
speaking role in that? Because obviously it hasn't come out yet. Do you have a speaking part?
yeah,
Oh,
yeah. It's a principal role.
oh,
Yeah.
wow. So
Yeah.
okay, because yeah, I don't talk. I just make head nods and crap. Like I said, I'm just a featured, I'm just a featured extra. Is that because I'm looking at, you have an IMDb credit for it, and I was going, I'm not. I saw a bunch of people on there that were just cops, and they have
Mhm.
IMDb credits, and I never got one. So I just assume, obviously, as a featured extra, who's going to care? But that makes sense that you had a real legit part, and that you should. Uh, so did you weren't there then at night?
No, mine was a daytime scene.
And
Yeah, mine was a day scene. Just a couple hours. I was just in one. So it was a long drive up and then a quick day and a long drive down.
right, and so you also didn't film at the Scream House.
No, we were on location. There was this beautiful home out in the middle of like a farm home sort of place. So yeah, we filmed on location. It was really cute.
Right. See, we shot at the Scream house where they filmed the movie Scream, and they wouldn't let like the extras in the house. Like they would, and there was only a couple of us. Like, I mean, it wasn't like a gang, but they were like, no, you guys can't come in the house. Like only the principals were allowed. Like they were really guarding of the house, you know, because
Yeah,
it was this big famous mansion or whatever. But
interesting.
moving back to you talked about the Bay Area as a tight film community,
Mhm.
which is one of the reasons why I'm surprised we've never actually met in person. But
I
you
know.
you've worked with people that I know that I've met and that you know I haven't had the chance to work with, but you've worked with Edward Castrillo.
Yes,
And I wanted to talk to he just posted or Unica Films just posted that The Pining is now free to watch on Tubi.
it is. Yeah.
So tell us about that, The Pining, and tell us about Ride Scare too.
Mhm.
So because those are what I think are your two biggest Bay Area movies. Am I right?
Yeah, the two biggest Bay Area movies. I did a third one. We've worked small town. Um, I worked on a third one with him. My very first one was called Hunting Season. And that was about crazy people hunting people. It came out like way before The Hunt came out, which was like a movie that I think it was like a year or two before, or after.
Oh
But
yes, he was upset that they had copied his idea. That's right. I
yeah, yeah,
remember him
yeah,
talking
yeah.
about that. Okay.
It's like the very same concept of it. But yeah, so Hunting Season was my first movie with him, and that we filmed out in the field. I spent like most of my shooting days tied up in this dirty barn.
Right.
But I was like, but it was my first feature film role in the Bay Area, so I do have Eduardo to thank for that. And overall, just had a really good time on it. Second one was The Pining, which yeah, I just posted on my Instagram story. Uncia Films is his company, and
Oh,
The
yeah, I never know
Pining,
how to say it. So
yeah,
I've never talked to him
the
about that.
The Pining is a supernatural cop thriller. I play a detective in it. And, it started out, one of the things that's really interesting about working with Eduardo is he really allows his actors to make the roles their own. Some directors really kind of nitpick and direct you exactly how they want you to be, but Eduardo, once he gets to know you and has faith in you as an actor, will let you just run with it. And there's a script, but then he allows you to kind of riff a little also. So there's flexibility with the lines, making it your own. And we shot that, start to finish, and it was awesome. I was super excited for it. And then he came to me and it was like, you know what? As I'm editing this, it's really about the cop. It's like that's the story that kind of ties everything together, and it's a thriller. It's a crime thriller. You got to get to the bottom of what's actually happening here. So we did pickups for like another week or so, and added in more scenes, added in more lines, and at the end of the day, The Pining, I became like a major character in it, which was so cool and so unexpected.
That's the
So that's
genius
out.
of him, though, that he can see that the story was going a different direction and he knew to reshoot
Mhm.
scenes. Well, I mean, that's so genius. Like, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah, yeah. You just tied the story in together a little bit better, added some more, backstory, and it really enhanced the film. So I'm very grateful for that.
right. And so people definitely watch that on Tubi, The Pining. So tell us about Ride Scare
Mhm.
because that's one of my favorites, and it just got a sequel. But I think Alexander Hero is so great. So
He's so
right,
good.
right. Like so,
We had so much fun working together because it was just the two of us for like practically the entire movie.
right.
Um, yeah. So Ride Scare is about it's a slasher movie. It's a crazy Uber driver. Um, I think we call it something else. I don't think we were allowed to use the word Uber, but we basically, I get into the car and he just terrorizes me, right? So that's the movie. We found this really amazing location that was, I guess, in between renovations. And so we just had the run of this giant building, took full advantage of it. And we shot mostly at night, just because of the nature of it. It was a lot of physicality, probably the most physically demanding role I've had to do. Um, It's indie, of course. So, I did most of my own stunts. I did all of my own stunts.
Right, right.
But we made it as we choreographed it out, and we did it safely.
And he's stunt
But
trained. I think isn't he stunt trained? Maybe I'm thinking of somebody else, but I thought he was.
well, I've got a background in basic utility stunts. I did a course up in the Bay Area stunts, Woot.
Oh, with
And
Tony Vella.
yeah, with Tony
Right,
Vella,
right. Okay, yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
Yeah,
uh-huh,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So I did a course with him. Basic stuff, hits, falls, jumps, just not hurting yourself doing those kind of things.
Sure.
So yeah, that was really exciting, and there was a lot of blood, fake blood, um, getting tied up, but getting put in a trunk, like
Right. So
had some good moments.
were you ever at some point like I'm in a trunk, it's freaky, or you're like, no, I know that there's a.
No, we kept it very safe. We took a lot of precautions. Plus, like this was our third movie working together, so I had a lot of trust in Eduardo and the other people that we were working with, which I think is extremely important in film. So even though there was I mean, I don't think it was ever actually shut on me. And if it was for like a second, just like that, boom, for the moment, and then opened right back up again.
Right, right. Like I've seen that done on set with the body bag, and you have to be in it for a moment where they zip up your face, but nobody wants to be
Yeah.
in there for more than a moment.
Yeah.
So let's move on. I Are you not in the sequel then? Ride Scare the sequel? Do you not?
Oh yeah, no, I'd already moved down to LA, and he Alexander Hero is just so compelling, so compelling. And Ride Square 2 is actually the prequel. It's not it is like part
Oh, it's the
two, but
beginning. That's
it's
right.
actually a prequel. So it really does, similar to what he did for The Pining with my character, he really wanted to go into Alexander Hero's backstory, and who he's the one who plays, like, the crazy guy in Rise Hero 1. So they got together and they filmed this prequel slash sequel, and I I think it's really, really cool that he's turned it into um, like a line of films, you
Right.
know?
Again, that's to his credit. He's so smart with that
Mhm.
stuff. So you go from the Bay Area, working there, and being popular, and deciding to move down to LA, which a lot of us do. When I think at some point you hit a ceiling in the Bay Area, and so
Yeah.
and so you moved to LA, but now you're at cons, like signing autographs. Like I want to go back to the fame thing we talked about a little bit. So now you're at Geek Fest or
Hmm.
LA Comic
Hmm.
Con, and you're sponsored by Geek Fest or something. And were you,
Hmm.
before you go to these cons signing autographs, is that something, were you aware of these conventions? Like, were you into that kind of stuff?
This is all new to me. There was such a steep learning curve, and there was such a personal sense of awkwardness that I had to get over. um, because, like I said, I mean, like I wasn't chasing the fame of being an actor. There's some actors that really hate it, right? Like Johnny Depp is one. It's very private. He doesn't. He lives in, I don't know, in France somewhere. Adam Driver. I mean, he's super popular and everything, but he doesn't really do any appearances or anything outside of film festivals that he needs to promote for. There's some very, very private people. And I think to an extent I kind of straddle that line. Um, Going to these conventions was a fluke for me because I got incredibly, incredibly lucky in my career that my very first credit was Stranger Things. And that became so popular. It developed such a fan following, um, that I feel like appearances, conventions, whatever, they were just hungry for um, Stranger Things anything,
Right.
and Comic Con are a huge part of that because they tend to gravitate more towards sci-fi, fantasy, there's horror conventions, obviously comic book, fan followings, but because Stranger Things was so popular and fell into this horror slash sci-fi fantasy world, a lot of the people who went to these conventions were fans. I have a friend who um, frequents these conventions for his comic book stuff. And he just kind of told me about it, and I was like, yeah, that's kind of cool. Like maybe I'll check it out. At first couple of times I was just an attendee, I was a guest, and got relayed over to a public appearance company agency. And the more I kind of learned about it, the more I was like, this is kind of cool. This is kind of fun. And I thought from a business perspective, it's a great way to meet more fans, connect with people, and an opportunity to promote like more of my upcoming work. So that was I don't know. It just kind of fell together. GeekFest is a online film, or not an online. It's a convention-based film festival that caters to geeky content. So sci-fi stuff, fan films. Like we have films about Star Wars every year. We have fans about Harry Potter, and it's mind-boggling how creative and resourceful these independent filmmakers are. So I got joined with them being a judge, being like a celebrity judge on it. And Bill runs the festival. Him and I became good friends. I started doing more like moderating panels, speaking at panels, and finally I was just we just share a booth together at Comic Cons so that I can promote my things. I can also cover the table when he's like off, doing IT stuff. And
Sure.
yeah, it's really cool. We have a very good symbiotic business relationship and friendship.
So as an actor, my dream is to sign pictures at cons. Like
Yeah.
like so watching you do it, like I said, I think from the Bay Area's perspective, you're what all of us want to do. Like you're actually like doing it. So like, let's talk about Stranger Things. Tell us about your role on that. Like, about your character
Yeah,
role.
I play in season one. I played the teacher's girlfriend. Mr. Clark is one of the main characters on the show, and um, there's a really cute scene towards the end of the season where you get a glimpse into his personal life. He's not just the teacher, he's got a life outside of school. Um, and it also kind of shows how good of a teacher he is because he drops everything on this date night with me to answer a call from one of his students. And, the story continues to unfold from there. But we're watching a horror movie on the couch. It's John Carpenter's The Thing. I didn't know it at the time. I think the production was still waiting to get permission. So we just had a little green thing on the TV. And we were just supposed to react to it. Like something scary is happening there.
Right.
I
I've never seen the TV actually on during a shoot. The
Oh
screen is
no,
never
yeah.
filmed. Right. You have to pretend.
But at
Yeah.
least sometimes they tell you like how to react though, right? They're
Right.
like, okay, you're watching this and this is gonna happen. So I had no idea what was gonna happen. So we just went with it. Um,
The first time I saw that done, I was mind blown. They had these lights, these like $1,000 tubes that flicker that make it look like a TV is on. And I was like, oh my God, I showed my dad, like, this technology is so unreal. So, all right, so they use
they do that with fire too. It's so crazy. It's like everything is fake.
everything is fake.
It's all
Right.
magic.
Right.
It's all really magic.
But yeah, okay, so you're watching not John Carpenter's The Thing, and it turns out to be The Thing, which is what a cool tribute, obviously.
Yeah. Such a good the whole series is filled with so many good nods and like homages to the 80s. It's so great. 80s babies. I love it. Yeah, it was just such a surreal experience for me because like I said, it was my very first credit and I like flew all the way to Atlanta for it and I like that was a moment where I was like, you know what, I can do this. Like
Right.
I didn't quit medicine for no reason I wasn't as stupid as everyone and myself thought I was at the time.
Right. This guy says to me, you closed your toy store to become a model? What are you, an idiot? Right. Like why would you leave?
Why would you do that?
Right. But
and even as you're like doing it the first year or two, you're just like, why did I do that? Like it's just
up until like 2 weeks ago. Anyway. I'm still like, why am I doing this? But anyway, no, I'm sorry. So
fighting off that, the imposter syndrome and self-doubt and just, man, the anxiety of it all.
So you got validated by the Stranger Things. I didn't mean to interrupt. But
yeah, no, that's exactly how I felt. I felt validated by it, and I just thought it was such a cool moment. And I remember just sitting there and just soaking it in. But it's also funny now because when I reflect back on it, there's so many cringy moments that I remember. I'm so embarrassed by so many things that I did at the time because I had no idea what I was doing. Not from like the acting perspective per se, but like etiquette, like
Mm-hmm.
I remember Randy Havens, Mr. Clark, he's one of the main actors. I'm in the hair and makeup, getting hair and makeup, and I'm just like vibrating because I'm so excited. He comes in, I was like, "Hi, I'm Jackie. It's so good to meet you." He's like, "Hi, great to meet you too." And I was like, "Do you want to like run lines or something?" And he's just like, I'm good, but if you need, it was just like he was so courteous and he was so polite and professional in dealing with this like little buzzy girl, just no idea what I was doing. It was so funny.
What about when somebody comes up to you now and they go, "Hey, do you want to run lines?" Do you go, "Oh, I remember you. Like you're so cute."
I remember feeling so like I said, he was so gracious and I was not embarrassed at the time, which is why in hindsight it's cringy for me.
Right.
Um, but I recognize that, and it's one of the reasons I love, love, love working with actors now. I do coaching, I read with them, I'm on We Audition, and constantly just working, and it makes me a better actor too. Because I get to practice and keep myself fresh, and you know. But when I see that sort of excitement, I want to foster it. I want to keep it growing because there's so much in this industry where you do get shut down. You don't know what you're doing. Nobody gives you feedback. And, they might teach you like how to act, how to do Meisner, how to do, this and that, but there's not a whole lot that's taught regarding etiquette or the business side of things. So when I see someone who's really excited for it, I really want to help them, if that makes any sense,
You,
or guide or mentor or say like, you know what, this is how it's done. This is how you do it. This is how you can make friends. This is how you make enemies. Like, I think learning what not to do is just as important as learning what to do.
right. So I'm
So
glad you brought that
I,
up because you do work with actors, and I wanted to talk about your actor consulting business. You're one of the few people who has probably seen the majority of my work. Because you've cut my demo reel, and I don't think a lot of probably people. I mean, I told people that it was you, and I always tell people it's you. But for those who don't know, you cut my demo reel. You're one of the few people who've seen all my bad moments on film as well. I'm like Jackie knows how I really act. You want to talk about imposter syndrome? I mean, showing you all of my footage, some of it from my very early stuff. It
yeah,
makes me worried. Like I'm like, and now I'm like I shouldn't necessarily show people some of my early stuff because I'm afraid it makes me look bad. Like, so when you're doing actor consulting, what are some of the harsh realities you have to tell actors?
oh, harsh realities. Oh gosh. Yeah, one of my things I always like to do is manage expectations because when you're just coming into it, like me doing extra work, I thought that was going to be my big break, right? Manage your expectations, understand that being an actor is like it's like any other career. You kind of start from the bottom, right? Whether on crew side you're being a PA to get experience, as an actor you're starting in background work or you're starting in student films. You really do have to grow your craft. You have to learn about the business, and that takes time. That takes a lot of time. And getting your first credits is always the hardest part because how are you going to get auditions if you have no experience, you have no resume, you have no reel? So it's the first bit is very tough, very, very tough for everyone, unless you're like super lucky, which is definitely the exception to the rule. And because it can take a long time, don't hold yourself to, oh, I'm gonna move to LA and try acting for like a year and see what happens. It's like a year. It takes that long just to acclimate,
Mm-hmm.
just that long to just even figure out like how to audition, right? Um, so that's one thing. Timeline. Your timeline has to be, the big picture. The marathon, so to speak. The other thing is um, just being smart, being a financially responsible adult. Have some savings. Find your side jobs, your hustles, your part times. You just gotta find that balance. Finding something that gives you the flexibility of being able to audition I'll tell you what, things have gotten a lot easier in a lot of ways after the pandemic because everything is self-tape now. So you can tape whenever is convenient for you, but it used to be you're doing whatever job you have and like, oh, you've got an audition tomorrow at 2 in the afternoon. You're like, oh my God, it's going to take me an hour to drive there, an hour to drive back, because everything in LA is traffic.
Right.
So, finding the flexible side job that will allow you to pursue acting, that's a challenge.
So you
Um,
call it your acting is the career. The other thing is the side hustle, not a career with acting as the side hustle. Or do you?
no, I reframe that mentality. And if there's anyone out there who um, if they don't want to be an actor, because there are a number of people out there, they don't want to be an actor. They want to be
Right,
famous,
right.
you know?
Mm.
And there's nothing wrong with that because you can't help how you like feel or what you want, right? But there's different ways to go about that. If you want to get famous, I say, go on social media, make some YouTube channels, go on Instagram. Like, there's so many
Yeah.
easier ways to
You can
do
shake your
that.
booty on TikTok. You'll get a
You
800,000
know,
views. Right.
I mean, totally. It's acting is it's more than just going on screen and saying some words. It's like, and there are working actors who have consistently been working for like 10, 15, 20 years. They're not
Right.
famous, you know? At best, you're kind of like, oh yeah, I recognize that guy from somewhere. What else has he been in? So being a celebrity and being famous is totally different from being an actor. And that's something that I'm very clear about delineating for anyone who's just getting into the industry.
I tell people that. I'm glad, so glad you brought that up because you'll be at a restaurant and people, you're just talking to somebody. Oh, what do you do? Well, I'm an actor. And they go, well, what have you done? And I go, listen, I'm an actor. I never said I was famous. Okay. Like
Yeah.
I make commercials you probably haven't seen. Okay. Like,
Right, right. And they don't realize that doing commercials, like, dude, that's what pays the bills, you
yeah,
know?
it's the only reason I do it.
Commercials, like, I did one national commercial, my paycheck. I was like, what?
Right. I always tell my wife, I always go, yeah, I have to do this, but it's not why I became an actor to push a water purification system. Like, it's not why I'm in
Yeah.
it, but I have to do it because, like right now after this, I got to go do an interview, audition for Lowe's. And,
Yeah.
I never thought that's why, man, I hope I get to advertise Lowe's one day. Like, so,
But, I think of it as a means for an end. It's still acting. I think a lot of actors start that way, you know?
it's nothing wrong
And
with it. And every time I find myself complaining about commercials, there's other actors who are like, I killed being a commercial, So I don't get me wrong. I don't want to sound ungrateful. I really am grateful.
grass is greener always.
Right.
I've only gotten one commercial in like my however many years I've been doing this. So commercials are tough to come by, and I still would love to go out for nationals. You know what I mean?
Right. Right. But you're not, you don't want to take the smaller products that are just doing like UGC, user generated content. Are you looking, you're SAG, so you kind of have to go. Right.
It complicates a lot of things. Yeah, it's really, I don't want to say it's limiting, but there are restrictions about being in the union.
Sure. Yeah. I unfortunately, fortunately, don't have that issue. I don't know. At the moment, I'm, floating.
Yeah.
Where I guess they say is the good place to be.
Eligibility.
Yeah, I guess. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's the perfect place. If there's actors out there listening and debating on whether to join SAG or not, if you're eligible, that is the perfect place to be because it allows you to audition for SAG projects. Eligibility, right? You're eligible now to audition for SAG projects, and you can still do non-union. You can still pursue these passion projects, these indie films, which really is an actor's bread and butter before you join SAG. Because once you join, you can't do any non-union projects anymore. So like Eduardo, I had to have, I'd be like, oh man, I love working with you, but until you start making your movies SAG, we've hit the road, we've hit the end of the road here.
But there's almost no way he does it because and I know we keep talking about him, but man, is he one of the best. I mean, that 7 Lost he's
so
got, I was so upset he never asked me to work with him. And I'm sure it's my personality. So whatever, sometimes I can be a lot for people to handle, but let's move on. I got a few more questions. One of the things I wanted to know is you mentioned, I saw you posted something on Instagram about, hey, I know you guys want a sexy pic, but today is, I'm around the house day. And so it got me thinking when I saw like your spread of photos you sell at the cons, and again I'm kind of interested in the con thing. I like that idea, and
Sure.
I think you had a lot of fun pictures from that. You gave me a lot to talk about, and that guy from Comic Book Man who would not leave you alone. Like, did that guy ask you out?
Oh,
That's
he's
none of my
one of my
business.
best friends at the con. No, he's wonderful,
Yeah,
Ming. Shout out to Ming.
that
No, he's really, really great. I love him. Every time I see him, we have such a fun time together. He's really
he's
wonderful.
really as cool in person as he seems on the show.
Oh, he's so cool. He's so cool. He's so funny. He's so approachable. Is one of the things like when I go to some of the conventions, I watch others, because that's how you learn, right? And like especially my first few times. And there's some people at the conventions that are a little standoffish and they're just like, I'm just here because my contract tells me I have to, or
Right.
um, some that are a little begrudgingly there because they're not working as much anymore, so they do have to rely on it for income. And there's a whole variety of people that work at
Of
conventions,
course,
right?
right.
But every time I see him, he's so welcoming, he's so embracing. People, he goes right up to people. He comes out from behind his booth and it's just like, hey, how's it going? And that's how we met for the first time. And I was like, dude, can we be best friends?
Right. So when you saw him, were you like, because I mean, obviously he's on a show, everybody knows, like, do you ever have
Super
that moment where
popular.
you're kind of starstruck a little bit? I mean, maybe not by him, but have you had that moment?
Yes. Yes. There's still moments where I'll be on set or something and I'm just like, oh my God, pinch me right now. This past summer, I actually booked this role in a movie that filmed out in Mississippi. And it was super, super under wraps. And I'd say a small supporting role in it. Um, but I get out there and, I know my scene and they did send me the full script. So I know what's going on in the movie, but I didn't know who necessarily had been cast in what scene,
Right.
right? I show up and I have this scene with, there's one other girl who's kind of like my partner here. She's like, do you know who we're working with? I was like, no. She's like, Morgan Freeman.
Wow.
She tells me this in the trailer, like as we're putting wardrobe on. And I was like, I have to wrap my brain around this in what, like 2 hours? I'm going to be working with Morgan Freeman? Like, are you effing kidding me?
Right.
So that was a moment where I just had to be like, okay, put the shock aside. He
Right.
is a legend.
He's God.
Um,
He's God. You can't get
he's
any.
literally
Yeah, yeah,
God.
yeah. Like you can't get. I always think if they cast you as God, you're just the best there is. Like,
Oh my God. It was,
like
it
what?
was just, yeah, it was a moment. It was a
Yeah,
moment.
who's gonna say anything to that? You're like, oh yeah, have you played God? Well, no. Well, then don't talk to me. Like,
I almost like I reflect back on it because like I feel like everyone kind of goes back and replays things in their mind to be like, okay, was I an idiot? Did I do something stupid there?
oh right.
And part of me actually thinks like I think I overcompensated to not be cool because I was probably the standoffish one. I was probably just standing there like, yeah, I
Right.
belong here.
I do that too.
It's
Yeah.
it's like you Morgan.
Right. Hey, Morg, why don't you come down, Morg? Yeah.
Hey, Morg,
Right.
yeah.
Right. Like, okay, there's a time where, like, okay, so last week I had to interview Dana Roebuck, or had to. Oh my God, I got to. And I was like, oh my God, and I kept like the whole week I was like, he's just a guy. He's just a guy, dude. Calm down. He's just a guy. Like, and I had to
Yeah.
like, and then I'm good. Before I'm on the show, I'm literally like, dude, like, I'm like, oh my God, and I'm like, dude, and then he comes on and I'm like trying to be as cool as possible. Like, yeah, don't act like a fanboy, I feel you. I feel you. Like when you get in front of somebody who you respect so much. So a couple more questions. So back to the sexy picture thing. When you're there and you're selling the photos, and I don't mean to go.
No, yeah. We're just opening up all
This is a
here.
fascinating question to me. Do you sell more of the sexy pictures or more of the pictures that show you in character?
I would say I sell more of the sexy photos. But here's what I do. Here's what I do. I have a spread, right? I have my professional working photos. I have like modeling photos, not necessarily sexy, but they're just modeling photos. And then I have a handful of like bikini ones. Um, I want to make sure that everyone feels comfortable around me. I want people to feel that I'm approachable and that I'm normal or maybe on the geeky spectrum of things. And if I sense that someone wants one of the sexy photos but is feeling a little off about it, then I'll even so I do a twofer, where you can get two photos and it's a cheaper price. And then it's like, well, if you want to get one of these, you can get a second one for just like $10 more. And that's usually a good way for them to be able to get the photo they want without coming off and feeling like they're, I don't know, just there for the sexy photos.
What an interesting dynamic. What an interesting dynamic to have to think about. I'm so glad you brought that up, because I know that that's a thing. Like I said, I've seen this. A friend of mine was set up next to Julie Strain once, and this guy kept coming up to her. Oh, each day he would come for each day of the con, and he would get his picture with her every single day. Like he was like obsessed with her, right? She's Julie Strain, of course. So and one of the days she says to him, "At least you wore deodorant today." So, so did you have any moments like that at a con where someone is like, you're like, whoa, dude, at some, like, and I'm not saying call anybody out, I certainly don't, but did you have any moments where you were like sort of on the other end of, I'm a little uncomfortable?
Yeah, that does happen. I think just the nature of being in a convention, being a woman in a convention, having a certain spread of photos, I think it opens it opens the invitation, and without, putting people down at cons, because I love conventions. I love like 99.9% of people that I meet there.
Of course.
But you're always going to have, some that are a little bit more, don't take the social cues as well,
Right. Right.
And they're not bad people. They're so nice and they're so gracious, but they just, sometimes they don't recognize that I'd love to sit and talk to you for like 20 minutes. I would, but I have other people that I need to, like give attention to as well. And it takes a little bit of navigating, I will say. That's a learned it's a learned skill.
Right. I wonder, yeah. So, do you feel like you're there after a few cons? Do you feel like, all right, I've gotten the hang of this con thing now. This is kind of where I'm going.
Yeah, I've been doing it for about 3 years now, and so I finally feel like I've mastered the art of small talk.
Nice.
And I've got answers for like most of the most common questions, and
What's the
because
most
sometimes
common
it's like
question? Tell us. What's the most common question?
most common question is what was it like working on Stranger Things?
Oh,
It would be like, what's your favorite movie that you've worked on? Who's your favorite actor? Who do you want to work with? It's a lot of that stuff.
right.
But it's like the first few times I went, my mind is blank because I've never had to think of it before. It's like when someone asks you, what's your favorite band? Or what's your favorite movie? Like you should have an answer, but sometimes you're like, I like everything.
Right. Right.
Your mind blinks out. So I feel like I've kind of gotten the hang of it. I definitely feel more comfortable in my own skin because that was a thing. When people would come up and ask me for my autograph at first, I'd just be like, "Why? Like you want my autograph?"
Right. Like the kids
What?
come home from school and they go, everybody at school wants your autograph. And I go, why? Because I'm your dad? I'm just some dude. Like,
Yeah.
like who cares?
I was like, "Do you know that I just babysit dogs at home for
Oh my God.
It's like finding that stride, right? Finding that balance, and yeah, it took me a second to get accustomed to that, but there's a sense of confidence. There's a sense of I don't know, just achievement that comes with recognizing that, you know what, I have worked hard and I should enjoy this moment because like it's precious. Not everyone gets to experience that moment, and I'm just so fortunate and so grateful and so blessed to be able to.
Right. And honestly, I think that's the best thing you can say about it is I think it is one of those things that's like really, really cool. And it's interesting because for me, like you said, like who would want my autograph? But like you coming to sort of getting over that imposter syndrome, coming into terms with the fact that you are on, big shows that
Yeah.
people are fans of. So I got to kind of wrap up. I feel like I could talk to you all day, which is really great. If I was in line at a con, I would be holding up the line. But tell us what you have coming up, because you do have a lot to promote. And I saw this thing that you were just cast in an Amazon original, and then it was gone. Like it got deleted or something, or maybe I couldn't find it again.
Oh no, it was just on a story. It was just in a story. So
Oh,
that phase, yeah.
okay.
I, stuff coming up. So I just had a horror movie drop on the
Oh, that's
14th.
right. I want to
I
talk
think it
about
was.
that free
Yeah.
fall.
The Free Fall. It's a
Mhm.
horror movie. It's starring Sean Ashmore, Andrea Londo, Jane Badler. It is I'll say it's a psychological thriller. Um, really, really cool shoot to work on. I've got a small bit and a small scene, but it was just really, really cool. I mean, I've done a lot of horror movies in the indie world, and this was probably one of the bigger horror movies that I've done. The executive producer of Get Out and Sean Ashmore. I mean, gosh, I've been watching him since X-Men: The Following, way back in the day with Kevin Bacon.
Right. Oh, yeah. He's
So
amazing. Yeah, he's
yeah,
Iceman.
so
Yeah.
good and so nice. He's so nice. He's very gracious. Also, I feel like you get surprised by like how really nice and approachable most actors are. Um, but yeah, that I can't even talk about it too much because it really is one of those twist and turn kind of horror movies,
Right.
and so I don't want to give anything away. But I thoroughly enjoyed watching it, and had a watch party. All my friends enjoyed it. Got great reviews at the film festivals when it was in the circuit. So it's available on Amazon, Amazon Prime. So you can rent it or you can buy it. And yeah, so that's really cool. I just dropped. What else?
No, that's way
Got more
cool.
good.
That is so huge. And I honestly wanted to talk about that. I really wanted to get into it, but we got going on stuff, and like I was having too good. I was learning too much. So I think that's really
Love
cool
it.
to get to work with him. He was in one of the movies I think is great is Frozen, and it's the one where they're stuck on a ski lift. I mean, oh my God, what
Yeah.
a great movie. So I mean, I think that guy's great, and I think to get to work with him, that's another one of those moments where I would have been like, dude, you know.
It's really, really cool. Every time I meet someone, I'm just like, wow, this is crazy. I'm in the same room with someone that I've been admiring, looking up to, learning from, and yeah, it's really a cool feeling, cool experience. I hope that never goes away. I don't think it will.
Right.
I still get nervous, I still get jittery, like auditions. Man, I'm so glad everything is self-tape now. I used to get
Oh,
so nervous going into in the room,
oh,
like
yesterday I made an idiot of myself at Fifth Street Studios.
I was laughing at you before I came
Oh
in.
my God.
We've all been there.
Oh,
I've bombed so many
I came
auditions.
home. I said, I don't know why I didn't just take a little tiny bite. I was all like, oh, heck, a snack. Like, idiot. Like,
You
yeah.
went for it.
I went,
You went for
all
it.
my training went out the window, and I was like, oh, time to eat? Like, like I was at Crafty. Like, it was a total idiot move. But yeah, so anyway, so you're right. They still get the jittery because you care about the project.
You care about the project, yeah. And plus, like, a lot of people don't recognize, like, unless you're in that space, unless you're in that position, being an actor is you're just making yourself vulnerable every single time. You're putting yourself out there. You are the product, It's not like you are like, hey, let me divert your attention to this thing over here. It's you. So it's like, if you suck, you got no one to blame but yourself. So it's really just one of those things, if I'm on set and I flub a line or something, I'm just like, oh my God, why did I get cast for this? I'm such an idiot. Like, it's just constantly fighting that off, I think is important, or just recognizing that you're human. Everyone makes mistakes. Everyone has bad days. Sometimes you show up, you have no idea what you're doing,
Right.
like you have a script, but you don't know what you're doing.
Right. Oh my God. Half the time I show up, I don't even know what we're selling or what.
Yeah.
Like, I got an audition. I don't know what the movie's about. I'm like,
None. Yeah, especially, or if it's like a pilot for something, you're like, I don't know anything about that. I can't even research
right.
it,
People go, well, what's the audition for? And you go, I don't know. And then they look at you like you're stupid. Like, why don't you know what you're doing? And you're like, because I just don't. Like,
Yeah, they pay you to not know what's going on. Like, are you a professional? It took a while for my husband to get used to that as well. He's like, oh, what are you working on tomorrow? I was like, I don't know. He's like, okay, well, what time do you have to go for work? I don't know, because the call time, that schedule comes in like in the evening hours the night before when they wrap.
right. Oh,
So we're sitting there like having dinner. He's like, what time are you working tomorrow? I don't know.
right. Dude, yeah, when the call sheet comes in, you're like, oh my God, I have to go to bed right now. Because
Right, yeah.
I
I'll be
have to
there
be there.
30 in the morning.
Right. And you're like, why'd you send this to me at 10 o'clock at night? I need to be there.
Yeah,
Like, and then,
literally like seat of your pants. Yeah,
right.
everything is so, you have to be so adaptable, so malleable, flexible.
Right. And your agency does not want to hear flexibility, or mine didn't. They just told me they were mad that I rearranged, but
Oh.
I was like, I'm not going to reschedule Jackie Dallas. No way. Like. So,
Aw.
no, I really have been looking forward to this. Like I said, I've been watching you, and I kind of know you, but I've never actually spoken to you, so this is a cool thing. But tell us real quick, because we got sidetracked. But what else besides the free fall? What else do you have coming up that you want to tell us about?
So that movie with Morgan Freeman is called Paradise Highway. Also stars Juliette Binoche. And Cameron Monagle. I hope I'm not butchering his name. But it doesn't have a release date yet. I'm thinking it'll probably sometime in the summer or fall. Just knowing how long these things take to edit. But it did get picked up for distribution, so it is coming. And it is a thriller. Juliette Binoche plays a trucker. This won't give anything away. She plays a trucker. She dabbles in the black market side of things and discovers that one of her packages is a little girl, and that's where she draws the line.
Right.
And so it turns into a thrilling movie involving big trucks.
Right. You're not supposed to look at the cargo. I think that's rule number 1 of the transporter, isn't it? Like, don't look at the cargo.
Right. So yeah, it's a cool movie. I had a blast working on it. I got to play a character that's very unlike the type that I'm usually cast in, which is really cool. I saw the breakdown, and they were looking for a tough, scrappy girl hanging out in a Midwestern truck stop, and I was like, I got that audition.
Right. And,
It was like really funny.
but you nailed it, obviously.
I feel good about it. I mean, we'll see when it comes out what the editor thinks.
Well, but I mean, you got the part.
I choose to believe.
You got the role.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I get those kind of auditions. I go, I'm not right for this. I'm not doing that. And then,
I know, I'm just going to do it and send it and forget about it. And I was like, hey, this is pretty cool.
That's another thing I do. I go, well, I'm just going to send them in whatever I got and hope. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Whatever it's going to be. But, I want to add a little anecdote also for actors out there who feel like they're constantly submitting for things and never hearing back, because I know that's super, super frustrating. The guy who casted that movie, I had been auditioning for like 3 years and never hear any back. Like, you don't get feedback as an actor here. And asking for feedback is sometimes like frowned upon. So I've been auditioning for him for years. This was my very first callback with him. And so we did a live Zoom callback because we're still not in person, or I'm still not in person. And in the few seconds of small talk, he was like, it's so great to finally meet you. You've been sending me solid auditions for years, and I'm really glad that, the director has chosen you as one of the selects here. That was like, wow, you know who I am. It took me back a little bit, because it's nice to hear that they remember you.
Right.
Yeah,
that happened to me this weekend at SAS Studios. I was there. They opened a new branch here in LA. You probably heard about it or whatever. And the guy says to me, the owner goes, I know who you are. And I go, you do? And he goes, well, I actually look at the files that come in. And I was like, holy shoot, dude. Like you must see thousands of models. You know who I am? Like, It's
a validating feeling, you don't feel like you're just throwing things out into the abyss and never hearing from it again.
Well, I took it to mean I'm a freak, and that's why I stood out to him. He was like, there's that weirdo. You took it to be a good thing. I took it as I stand out like a weirdo. But
well, you were in the room, so clearly they like something about you.
That's true. Clearly I was in the room. You're right. I can't mess with that. So before I let you go, tell the people, and it really is, I could talk to you all day. It's wonderful. I think if you're going for approachability, you're nailing it. No. If you're going for small talk, you're doing a wonderful job at that. It really has been a pleasure to talk to you. Tell the people where they can find you. Where can people who want to take your consulting and get, tips from a real working SAG actor, and where can they do that?
Yeah, all my information is on my website. It's just jackiedallas.com, JackieDallas, like Texas. And on Instagram and Twitter, my handles are both Jaxdallas, Jaxdallas. Um, Somebody had already claimed Jackie Dallas. I was like very strange about that. And then if they want to check out more of my work, IMDb is the best place to just find all of my credit.
Right. Very good. There it is. You know, it's funny that you said somebody else already took it. Someone else is out there taking my name on things. Like
how dare they?
Someone literally has @Zlatkus on TikTok, like my last name. Like, and there's not a whole bunch of
not the last name either.
like that's what I'm
or
saying.
At least I don't think.
No.
Yeah.
There's not someone out there with that last name, especially because he's using my photos. So he's like, yeah, right. Like, so how many of those before I let you go? I know we just did the ending of the show, but do you get a lot of impersonators? Do you get people using your pictures?
I haven't. I haven't really looked, but I haven't. Maybe I haven't made it as much as I thought I did.
Right. Oh, well, if you're not getting impersonated online.
Like, unless someone's trying to be me. Nobody wants to be me yet.
You know, I don't know. A lady told me, she writes me and she goes, hey, somebody's using you on a dating site. And I'm like, what? And she goes, yes, they're claiming to be a Christian single guy who doesn't live with his children. And I'm none of those things.
Wow.
Yeah. So someone out there is using my pictures to get dates. So if you're watching the show, I'm not on the market, folks. But
have you seen Clickbait on Netflix?
I did.
You did that. What just reminded me.
Right. So that hasn't happened to you yet, where somebody was using, like what if like that could actually happen to me, right? Like,
I have no idea. I'm not on dating sites, so if somebody wants
I'm not on
to date
dating
me,
sites
I'm
either.
very
Right.
married.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly my
very
point.
married.
Right. But that's what I'm saying is somebody's out there impersonating me. And at first I thought it was a fun gag, but then when I hear they're like actually using me as a profile, like that's freaky, right? So
yeah, that's pretty bizarre.
I know that derailed the show a little bit, but folks, you know, I just want to thank you again. I know, like I said, that derailed the show. We went over a few minutes, and what a weird way to end the show. I don't normally do that, but you know, but I really do appreciate you being on. And everybody, I want to thank you for watching again this week. Coffee Breaks Thursdays with Jason Zlatkus. Jackie Dallas, thank you. You've been wonderful. And
thank you.
We'll see you guys. We'll see you guys next week.
Bye, everyone.